願いします。
お願いします。
Okay, so just start with a little bit of beginning. Starting the body, sink into the ground. And feel free to play a little bit with the arms, so you can kind of put them up to the sides, swing them a little bit. So let the feet kind of leave the ground just a little bit, especially if it's cold. This is a good one to keep the temperature up in the body. And just play a little bit wider with the feet. Just really feel that the feet are going to sink into the ground. And just feel that you can really drop the hips into the center. So just feel the kind of weight, the upper body. Create a kind of length through the spine. Just feel that the hips can really drop into the knees. And you also play a little bit with the body kind of coming down. So the spine's kind of, the hips engage forward, tilting forward. Just play a little bit with a sense of bounce through the knee. The main thing is that the knee's not going to kind of lock up through the move. And really feel that rather than kind of moving, we tend to kind of move in away from the front of the knee. So feel that you can kind of fully kind of hinge through the knee, even though it's a kind of small movement. Feel that the back kind of really activating the back of the body. That's nice and loose. And just more and more start to feel that the body's going to kind of fall towards the ground, the upper body. Keep the movement kind of based in the lower body. And just more and more feel the arms get dragged down. And just continue that movement, keeping a sense of bounce in the knees. And just let the whole of the upper body get dragged down. And hopefully feel now that you're kind of releasing the movement all the way through the spine. So feel the knees, feet, the connection to the ground, but also feel the sense of that movement getting pulled all the way through the spine. As if the weight of the ground is going to start to kind of lengthen all the way through the spine. And don't come up, but just feel a movement now that you're going to pass a kind of wave through the spine, like a kind of fish. So you're going to go now from a kind of bouncing up down to a sense of passing a kind of wave through the movement. And if you feel you need to go, so you can play with having the hands on the ground. So that you've got these kind of 4 points of contact. And just play a little bit. Just waking up the spine in a way. Just going to kind of wave through it. And really slowly, just start to kind of increase this wave, which basically translates to a side-to-side movement. And what you're going to do is just start to bring the body up, so that the hands start to kind of swing up. And do this really slow. You should spend a bit of time down to the head. It's nice and slow. Basically start to come into a kind of sideways move. Remember, this too dynamic. Like a kind of pendulum swinging go. And then when you get into the vertical again, just go to a kind of full swinging motion to the side. That's it. Good. Just take it nice and slow. And really the focus in this exercise, for me, especially in the mornings, is really trying to mobilize this whole area. So really trying to open this space out. Just play a little bit with. Yes, and sort of a wave through the whole spine. And also including the legs in it. So really trying to activate the sides of the legs too. A little bit with it. I think in Japan they call this like a seaweed exercise. So it's like seaweed in the sea. It's kind of swaying motion. I think I remember something about seaweed. And just start to kind of play with the hands a little bit. And just start to take it now to a kind of rotational movement. You can feel nice and free to kind of move through the feet, to take one foot off the ground and roll through the toes. Just keep it nice and free. The main thing at the moment is that the movement's done with as little tension as possible. So if it means really kind of coming out of the structure, let's do that. So play a little bit with the arms, kind of throwing them up. Try that. And play with also kind of keeping the head down. Just play a little bit. And one more exercise. I usually do this as a kind of separate exercise, but play a little bit with it. It's a bit like the exercise we do when we kind of toss the hand out, but it's a bit more free form. So in a way, it's to kind of pass the movement into the hand. So just play a little bit, and it translates a little bit like a kind of slapping motion. But basically, what I'm interested in is not it's not the slap with the hand. It's basically the freedom in the shoulder. So I'm actually trying to kind of make this part of the arm dead, this part of the arm, and I'm trying to really open the shoulder out. And I'm using a kind of motion like this, just to kind of create a sense of space in the joint. And you can basically do that, play with it a little bit like one side, and the other side. And you can also kind of mix in both arms. This is these movements that kids do when they have a kind of tantrum. They do these kind of movements. And it's basically to expel energy. So it's the kind of thrash out and expend energy. But it's actually a really nice move to get. And the key thing for me is when I do this is that I feel that it connects to the hips. So it's less like a child in a tantrum, which is totally out of control. And a little bit more control. And you can also play a little bit here with kind of circular movements. Everything should have a sense of weight and connecting to the hip, even though it looks a bit freestyle. I'm still trying to work these kind of principles. Ground. Oops. And that's nice. Okay. Last one, just work through a kind of spinal wave. So nice and easy. And again, look for the movement to be as kind of free as possible. And basically, just watching these cases, the moments of tension that you'll probably find, or I find, in the morning especially, is this when I kind of crunch forward. I feel a kind of tension through the hips. And as I come up, I feel a tension here in the neck as I come up. So just be careful of those two kind of ends of the movement, and try and kind of release the tension through it. So try and have the sense that those movements a little bit of tension. So it's just trying to kind of locate, really feel where the tension is. And you might also feel it in the arms, in the shoulder. But just see if you can, also if you like, play a little bit with the breath to kind of release tension. It's a good way for breath. It's a kind of nice thing to kind of release through the body. Just focus again on creating more and more sense of freedom, flexibility. Yeah. That's it, very nice. Good. And then basically start to take this to an extreme where you're basically going to really open the body out And then close it really forward down. So basically coming down into the ground. In the case of coming down to the ground, let everything kind of curl forward, close down. And then feel that everything at the top is going to kind of open out. You can also play a little bit to kind of activate the feet as well. Play with kind of coming up onto the toes at this point. So everything has the sense of stretching and opening out. In this case, I think like a kind of bow, stretching back and then releasing. I'm just going to kind of release towards the ground with the kind of soften. Just play a little bit and really just play with including the feet. You can also play with the weight on the heels. Just really explore a little bit. I'm just going to watch a little bit. So very nice. Good. Okay. Good. Nice. Yeah, very nice. Yeah, and also just explore the sense when the body comes out of balance. So if the body's kind of coming in and out of balance, also just in a way kind of enjoy it and just listen to what's happening in the body as it kind of gets pulled down. Just kind of, and if it means you have to take a step forward, this is kind of nice because it means you're working kind of full range, which is actually challenging the body as well. So sometimes it's nice to get pulled out of balance a little bit. And having said that, I'm going to do one where you basically get pulled out of balance now. So you're going to stretch forward, and then it's a little bit like when we do this exercise, stretching up and then coming down. So I want the base to be quite strong, heavy, and I want basically the upper body to have a sense of pull forward, a little bit like Superman, just like this. But in this case, just explore a little bit. You can do this position. You can also stretch up with it. Just play with these kind of directions. Basically opening out, creating the bend, and what we're going to do is come forward, forward, forward. And in this case, rather where I would come down to find the base of the movement, I want you to just experience a little bit of the body's crawling forward, coming forward, 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 and just feel what happens to the body, and then just kind of come forward with it, come back, and then find the base again. So just allow a little bit of the body to get pulled down, or actually let the body fall forward. So, but do it in a kind of controlled way. So it's kind of stretching back. Let the body come forward, 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 and just basically I'm stretching out this point where I feel like I'm forward, there, falling, 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 and then just very gently let the body come forward. Just experience a little bit of being out of balance. And basically the limit of my control to try and stop the body. Okay, give it a try. Just watch. Okay. Nice. That's okay. Okay. See if you can imagine. Well, maybe it's better if I can. Okay. Imagine a little bit like you're kind of on the edge of a cliff. So in this case, what I'm actually looking for is this response in the body which says pull back. So this kind of response which says the body says you're falling, what are you doing? Pull back. So I basically want to kind of activate a little bit that kind of response, which is basically kind of feel it. So I'm coming forward like this, and I want the body to feel like it's really falling off. Now it's easy in this case as I come to here that I pull back already. So I'm basically already in balance. So there's no sense of security in the movement because I'm basically pulling back, and then I'm actually okay. And that's okay, but that's also a nice exercise to do. But in this case, just feel that as you come back, as you come forward, I basically feel the body there. Now the body, I feel the kind of fear in the body where it wants to kind of pull back, but I'm not letting it pull back. And then I fall over. Whoop. And then just experience that moment where boom, you kind of flop over the cliff, you fall over. And then basically just do it slowly so you can control it and it's not kind of gaming. Just experience that moment where you go, oh, and fall.
This is the tipping point. This is basically where we work with ukemi as well. So this is a nice, very simple exercise. There we go. That's it. Okay. So. Good. Okay, I want you to do the same, similar kind of thing now. This is basically now you're going to control the descent. So you're going to go from, I just want you to go from standing to sitting. So I'm not going to do any ukemi, and I'll probably never do ukemi in the mornings, just too early. So what I want you to do now is just go from standing, just feel that you come down, and I just want you to come to a seated position. So either it's in a kind of safer position, this is the kind of natural position to come to, or just come down into a kind of normal kind of seated position. But just come down into the body, all the way down, find your hands, and come down this way. Now, what I want you to explore is a sense of spiraling through the body, but now a sense of really, in a way, to kind of control descent towards the ground. So I want you to really have the sense, take it slow, and really now, rather than this sense of kind of falling, I want you to really feel that the structure is kind of aligning into the ground. So you've got initially 2 points of the ground, one side, and I want you to kind of usually kind of create 3. So I put the knee in, and maybe place the foot down, and then I'm basically coming down where I've got almost 4 points on the ground. I'm looking for a real sense of stability and seated position, and then just going to come back up to standing. So just play a little bit with it. Take it a little bit slow. Just have a sense of really control. So at all points, nice sense of stability. Also feel really free to use the hands. I usually use the hands all the time in these exercises. Just really kind of control it. Just explore this moment. There's two kind of really special moments are when you, these kind of transitions between the seating, standing to seating, and then as you come up into the standing. These are really the crucial moments. Oh, very nice. Oh. That's it. So. Okay, and then just explore this because there's another kind of pattern. I'm basically trying to explore the essential points of ukemi for me, but without doing the kind of rolling stuff in the morning. So what you're going to do now is, for me, ukemi is also kind of a sense of freedom. So I'm establishing a connection to the ground, making contact with the body, and then I should also feel that in a sense very free. So what I want you to do now is just, it's a little bit like this kind of animal locomotion movement. I want you to come towards the ground, maybe place 1 hand or 2 hands, it's up to you, and then just feel that you can move through this motion. Just take a few steps and then again just come up. So you're not going to fully go down to the ground. Just play with a little bit coming towards the ground, and you can go again however you like. Just take a few steps and then come down. So it's not these kind of full animal locomotion. It's a bit too early for that. So just feel you can play a little bit with the movement as you come up. So if I'm really on balance and I've got a good connection to the ground, I should feel free to move through the movement. I should feel a sense of freedom. And just feel, it seems a bit obvious, but feel the difference between when you're on 2 feet and when you've got 4 points of connection with also with the hands. Just feel what the difference is. Also, you're low to the ground. That's really big difference between this and the extent. There we go. Yeah, it's tiny. Now, just going back to that point, for me also Ukemi is also really about hip flexibility. So we're going to go a little bit wider with the legs, and I'm going to do these kind of stretching moves, but we're going to do a little bit different. Just place the hands into the ground and very, very kind of mobile. I show from this way. I just want you to play with exploring the hip. So what I'm basically doing is just trying to free the hip. I'm just working with a sideways motion. Use the weight, put a little bit of weight into the hands, and that's basically so that I can free the hips. So I want a little bit of weight in the hands, which basically frees the hips to be able to kind of move. So play a little bit with length through the spine. But mostly my focus now is on the hip flexibility. So just starting to open them out. That's it. Good. Okay, and then just in a sense, what you're going to do now is like this exercise, but I'm not going to hold it. So what I want to do now is feel that you straighten one leg, bend the other, but do it in a kind of fluid way. So don't go to the full stretch. Just feel that you're kind of lowering the body down to the ground. If you watch kind of animals in the morning, especially dogs, cats, they do these kind of stretches. They're kind of ways to activate their body. So just play a little bit with it. And if you feel pretty kind of flexible in the hips, just play a little bit with the position of the hands. So you can keep the hands in front and kind of do this kind of thing. But you can also explore with the hands coming a little bit maybe back, a little bit to the side, a little bit over the top, and just basically explore these kind of different directions. The key thing in this is don't go to a full kind of stretch, and don't go outside your kind of comfort. So it's just to kind of mobilize the body. It's not really to stretch. Let's explore a little bit. Basically looking to explore hip mobility. Good. That's it. Nice. So. Okay, and then just explore a little bit of a different idea. You're going to do the same with the hands, and then what I want to do is start to bring the legs down to the ground, bring the knees down to the ground as well. So you can do this with kind of one, and releasing the hands, that you can see, and you can do this kind of like this. But just basically explore these. Now you've got another point of contact with the ground, which is the knee. So you've got the feet, the toes, the flat of the foot, and you've also got now the knee and the hands. Just exploring since coming in and out of this position. You can put both knees down, or you can have a sense of lifting one knee, placing the other, like this. The key thing is that it's done playfully, and really with a sense of control. And if again you feel pretty comfortable, just explore a little bit. You can do two things if you feel kind of free. You can explore a kind of flowing motion through it. So very kind of fluid. And you can also explore a little bit coming outside the range, or outside your range of motion, your range of movement. If I feel pretty free, I'll do this. The key in this exercise, especially in the morning, is really use the hands to distribute the weight. So I'm definitely not walking on the knees. So this is not kind of sore about it. Yeah. Good. Good. So. Okay, good. And just slowly come up, and I just want you to take a bokken. So just in your own time. Take a bokken, don't rush. And I just demonstrate a little bit just, I think we've done this before, maybe last week at some point. Just play a little bit with the bokken. So don't think of it as a bokken yet. So don't necessarily think of it as a sword. Just play with basically placing it into the ground. Really come down to the ground, nice contact. Come back up. Just take a few steps away from it. And then just really, you're really going to connect into the sword. Come into the sword. Not a sword, just a kind of stick. So just play a little bit with it. You can do it in one hand, two hands. The key thing is that however I'm placing it down, however I'm doing it, have the sense that it's a kind of precious thing as well. So although it's not a sword, I want to kind of have the sense of connecting into it. Very careful with the movement. As if it's quite kind of fragile. Releasing it, which really helps me focus on the balance in the body. So if I really try and place it down in a very careful way, just pick it up in a very careful way, I'm really focusing on my own balance and connection to the thing. So, and then the main thing in this case, I was talking a lot about the eyes, I think, last week, but in this case, just be careful again of watching the thing. So there's a tendency now in this case to watch the object as I go down. I keep my eyes on it, and then as I come down, I keep and everything's kind of, I'm basically got tunnel vision. Everything's on the thing, on the object. In a sense, imagine there's someone else in the room, and you're basically going to connect into them, so, or the laptop, or whatever, the screen, whatever you've got, where you've got to kind of pull the tree. And I'm going to basically focus on the tree. Look at this little ornament, and I'm just going to kind of focus on as I do the movement. So I've got a kind of outside reference to it. So it's not all about me. It's not all about the sword either. So it's just about including. You basically want to include everything. So if we talk about Japanese, they talk about Zanshi. This is really about a kind of, some people refer to it as a kind of state of alertness, but this is a bit kind of paranoid for me. So it's about a sense of openness, open awareness. So, just play a little bit. And you can play with just one hand, two hands, really explore it a little bit. Good. Okay, and then we're going to do a really formal one, which is a very nice. I think we did it last week, but you basically start now with the sword at the side. It comes like this. So just let everything kind of release. Find the ground with the heels. And you're just going to come forward into the command, right side forward. So like this. And then just, well, you're going to just take two steps. So I take with the left, I take with the right, and then basically in a kind of handing position. And then after the two steps, just drop down. Drop the sword into the ground. Again, just place it into the ground. Here like this. Find the balance of the spine. So the spine's nice and right. And then just raise up. And then again, you just take two steps to do one, two, back to the start. This way. And then you just take it again. One, two, sink. Take the sword. Raise it into the command. And you walk back with the sword. And then you come all the way back. So in a sense, it's quite a long sequence. And it feels, in a way, it's a little bit repetitive, but it's actually a very nice sequence of movements. Just give it a try. And again, keep a kind of outside reference. So you've got to kind of focus outside of you and outside of the sword. In my case, I'm just going to kind of watch the Christmas tree. And the way the movement should be very kind of silent. Just all the time really focusing on the balance in the body. And the movements to be nice and soft and natural. Even though you're doing quite a rigid form. And then just continue, come to the end of the form, and then we'll go somewhere else. Just in your time, don't rush it. That's the key. Just take your time with it. And this sequence comes from the Katori Shinto Ryu school. If you want to look at it, this is a nice sequence. They do a couple of bows in between the sequences to each other. But this is the basic sequence they use before Kumitachi. That's nice. Good. So. Good. Okay, good. And then everyone just come back. So we'll just go now into Kosaburi. Just take it nice and slow. So really big movements. Find in the back. And getting down here. I want you to really get a sense that in this case, what I tend to do, which is a little bit not exactly correct. I get a big down forward. So in my case, I usually come to this kind of position with the foot. For me, it feels a bit more comfortable. So if I can get away with it, I'll do it. But in this case, really get a sense you're going to find the back, and you're going to really reach the foot with the front foot, and then really drop into it. Now, there's a big benefit in doing this full motion, because I really have to have the sense that I'm grinding through the back foot. If I place the foot in front, there's a tendency I can basically balance the body up through the feet. But just get a sense you're going to really fully draw the foot back. And there's like 99% in the back foot. So the front foot's super light. And from here, just drop into it. So really playing that with really finding this kind of column. And then coming through. Just that. A nice, basic first of root. Just focusing on really this concept of column as you come up. That's it. That's it. Nice. Right. Good, and then just take it into a Zendo. So just front and back. You can just take your time with it, really focusing on the rotation out to the back. Really connecting the hip work into the hands as you go through the impact. And again, really looking for a sense of flexibility through the hips. And the spine should feel pretty relaxed. Wow. Nice. Good. Okay, good. And we're going to shift into number 2. So just really take your time with it in three clear movements. Rolling back, changing the command, coming to the Joakai, reaching the back, finding the cut, really engaging the hips through the brain, and then just coming back into the command. Nice and natural. And just repeating it. We've got these 3 movements. And back. Go. Okay, good. And just see in this case, just work on one idea, which is basically the sensation of raising the sword from kind of inside the body. Basically, this is a bit clearer in number 3, where you basically draw the sword, bring the sword to the center, and then kind of stretching up with it. And in this case, it's got a similar feeling, not exactly the same. But what I want to do is have the sense that the sword's basically being raised internally through the body. That was a really bad form, but the feeling is basically to do. So the sword basically connecting to the center and drawing it up. What I want to avoid in the case of number 2 especially is that I have is the feeling of the sword being raised from the outside, where the sword's basically on the outside of a circle. But trying it in this case, there's a sense of bringing it into the center and then dragging it up. So number 3 is super clear, so it's actually explored further in number 3. But in number 2, it's kind of still the same idea. So have just the sensation as you come back. The sword's really getting drawn through the hips. It just feels good. And again, it's kind of sensation. It's not necessarily technical. That's it. Yeah. Good. Yeah. Nice. Good. Nice. Okay, so I'm just going to add one move to it now. So as you come through, you're going to come back. Yeah, the sense of raising up the sword's basically anchored in the lower body. So you know you've got this cut here cutting through, and then what I want you to do here is come forward and thrust this way into that position. So the whole kind of movement goes back, comes forward with the hips engaged, and then really have the sense that spring forward and find the thrust here. It's a nice short movement. It's not a big thrusting move. Nice and contained. You're going to come down here, and then really engaging the hips to the thrust. And then coming back. Just give that a try. So work with number 2, and then it's as if you're going to come into 6. Yeah. Nice. And it's actually really great in terms of connection, where there's a kind of real clear gift in terms of number 2, in terms of actually engaging with it. There's like, oh shit, sorry. As I find a cut, engage the hip. As you basically in this position, the hips are already engaged and the sword's basically connected into the hip. So from that point, all I do is just press that connection forward. We tend to, as we do this move, we tend to get to the engaged hips and then we somehow release it and then come through to the move. So, but in the case of this kind of sequence, really feel that the hips engage into the cut, they're connected into the sword, and then I just press it forward. So just feel that you're basically using taking advantage of the fact that the hips are already engaged into the cut. And then from here, just press it forward. Now there's no flexibility in the move, there's always going to be flexibility, but just see if you can capitalize on this really big moment where you really engage everything into the sword. Yeah, and the major problem we have with connection, when we talk about connection, is we tend to lock things together. So now, in a sense, if I talk about the things being connected, there's a sense now that the things are locked together. So everything's kind of locked together. I think about connection. Remember the old landline phones where you just have a cable attached to the headset, where they got these kind of curly waves like this little flexible cable, and it's always kind of connected to it. Now it's connected in a very flexible way, so you pull it, it becomes tighter, and then you release it, kind of wobbles back. So that's the kind of connection, not that kind of connection specifically, but that's an example of connection. Now we live in a kind of wireless world where everything's kind of connected through magic. But I want you to have a sense that when you cut, there's really a sense of connection, but it's very flexible as it comes through. So don't mistake connection for locking. together. And don't mistake connection for something that's just going to happen in the air. Try and get a sense that the connection is actually really there. So it's just about creating connections between the limbs. But because you're already connected, the work's actually mostly being done. You just need to kind of, in a way, you just kind of open the connection. Yeah, there we go. There we go. Nice. Okay. And then one technical detail in terms of this movement. In this case, you're coming really, if I look at the hips, really coming into a Shomichi position. Yeah, I do this way. So you've got this kind of Shomichi position. And as you come into the ski, you're slightly changing the orientation of the hips. So what I'm going into from the Shomichi is like this, with the hips engaged this way. And then as you come into the ski, it's like this way. So the back hip's basically opening out this way. Now, it's really clear, I think we're talking on Saturday about it, is that the sword doesn't leave the center, it doesn't leave the center of the body and come out. So it's still it's still anchored on the center this way, but I'm basically allowing the hip to open out. So you've got this kind of motion, this, rather than this. So you've got something that's like that. So as you come through, find the hips here, and then engage and open the hips this way. Yeah, just give it a try. So you're basically allowing the hips to, again, create the motion, create the movement. That's it. That's it. Just explore a little bit of that change in the hip. Nice. Good. And in terms of the ski, another technical point, if you watch the old videos of Osensei and you watch some of the videos with Saito Sensei, you will see as he makes this thrust that he actually turns the blade up with the sword. So in terms of making the thrusting motion, you'll sometimes see this kind of motion, and you'll sometimes see it towards the throat. Now, I think that was because Osensei did that a lot. Because if you watch all the videos with sword work, he's basically doing thrusts towards people's throats. And that's why all the UK do this kind of thing. When they're kind of attacking you, they all they're already in these kind of positions when they're attacking, because they know he's kind of automatically coming up in these kind of patterns. So just explore a little bit what we tend to do as we make this thrust is kind of come to this position, so that the tips basically kind of side on angle. You can also, if you like, just explore a little bit this where the sword's going to kind of come up. It means kind of rotating through the grip, but just experiment with it a little bit. The main one I want to avoid is doing kind of nothing, and just kind of poking forward with it. So really feel that the sword's going to kind of follow the hip, which basically means that that turn's going to happen anyway. So if the hands follow the hip, it just kind of follows that. If they're not really following the hip, I push it out, then this kind of thing happens. So just explore a little bit. You've got the cut and you've got the thrust. So you can explore this, full range of motion, but just a little bit to the side. So just play a little bit with the tip. Nice. That's it. Good. That's it. And then we're just going to add one more movement to it. So you're going to come here, again, roll to the back, find the strike here, find the thrust here, and then from here you're going to bring the whole back side of the body in, roll it to the top of the head, and then strike down until you're good. So I'm basically doing a little bit of a broken down version of the Kimusubi with a different start. So you come into 2, striking down, thrusting in, and then from here the left side of the body, everything comes in, rolls over, and then you cut down on the left side of your corner. If you get lost, just kind of follow me. I'm just going to repeat it. So, and then here. This way. Yeah, just keep going. Give it a try. Oh. Nice. Good. Yeah, so when we do this form in the Kimusubi no Tachi, you're coming into this side, striking the head, and then this position you come into a kind of guard position. So all the hips drop down. Now, I don't want you to do that in this case because it's a slightly different kind of issue, and it's a slightly kind of strange thing. It's a little bit of a strange thing to do with no partner. So what I'm going to do is just kind of cut in, find the cut here, find the thrust, and then just come here straight through and cut straight down through to the center. Now from here we're going to do another move. You're going to bring the back leg in again. Back leg comes in, and then you come up this way. Show that way. You're going to come up to this position. And again, I'll show it again. You come here, cut, thrust, left side yokomenuchi here, and then allow the whole body to come curl through. Bring the right leg in, and then you just finish with the sword high. And then just draw it down again. So let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5. Coming up. And then 6, just drop down to the command. Yeah. And if you get lost, just copy. So we'll just keep running through it. Yeah, and again, it actually goes back to this point of number 2, this kind of sense of drawing the sword into the body and basically internalizing the movement. So it's the same kind of question here as I make this from this move into the last move. There needs to be a sense that I internalize that motion, which basically means it's going center first, center out to the periphery, center out to the periphery. The moment I do basically the periphery leads, then this happens. They just get pulled out by the body. So there's this whole kind of big dialogue in terms of internal, external martial arts and internal power. Basically comes down to whether you move from the center to the periphery or you move from the periphery to the center. So it's whether you allow the periphery to move first or you allow the movement to come from the center directly. So that's basically kind of thousands of years of discussion and dialogue. So it basically comes down to that very simple fact of whether I engage the center first through the motion or I allow the arms to basically pull the body out. So just feel that this is basically a spiral inside the body. So something goes first in the center. This. And then coming to the ground and stuff. So just play a little bit with that. And that's always there in every movement you do. So it's just a bit clearer in that move because it's quite tricky move, you know. That's it. Okay. And we're going to finish with the sequence that we started with. So I'm going to really elongate the movement. You start here. You start here, the sword at the side. Okay, you engage into the kamae. Forward. You're going to come forward. 1, 2. Drop down. Find the sword into the ground. Take the 2 steps away. Keep again the sense of the peripheral vision is connecting with the sword. Come forward. Drop down. Find the sword. Come back into the kamae. And then this is where you find the fall. Come back. Strike. Skew. Back. And then come up. From here, just walk back. Fall back. Disengage. And that's the fall. And then he would do a bow in the fall, but we've got no partner, so just start again. Come right. Oh. Good. And we're a little bit over time, so I'm going to pause you all, come back, and then we'll bow out. You will back. So. Good. Okay, we'll bow out. はい。どうもありがとうございました。
どうもありがとうございました。
Very nice.
Thank you very much, Michael. Very much.